Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, October 26th, 2020. Holy macaroni. That is, that's a lot of things. Hi, my name's Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of YouTube channels Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up. My streaming schedule is that on Mondays, what you're watching right now, from 12 to 2, I do a show called the Monday Discourse, in which I am joined by Missing in Action Missing in Action Mulder, who's not missing in action. She'll actually be here today, so we're going to be good. And we talk about bullshit that's going on the internet, as per usual. And then Tuesday nights from 7 to 9, I do a show called Step Back Tonight, in which I hang out and chill with the audience. And then on Fridays, I do The Reactor, in which people send me content and I react to it. I go by he, him pronouns, and you can find my work at stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com or tristanpj on Twitter. And here's a cat. So now you get a cat too. Hello, Phoebes. You gonna be... What are you gonna do? What are you committing to right now? Okay, sitting on my keyboard is what the answer is. If you are on Amazon Prime and you are not using your monthly Twitch subscription, did you know that Jeff Bezos is protecting, or is stealing your money and using it to have sex with? So I would recommend that you should use your Twitch Prime subscription to help an independent Twitch creator every month, because if you don't, Jeff Bezos just gets to have sex with your money. I mean, I can't figure out what else he's using it for. And if you help an independent Twitch creator, you're going to help them, pay their bills and stuff. And if you choose Step Back History, you're going to help keep food in this cat, or, my rent paid and stuff like that. I need to mention that this is going to be possibly one of the more chaotic streams that I've done, because not only is it the wonderful time for the monthly fire alarm test. Now, we already got a little bit of it, so I'm hoping that's all we're going to get, but I could just end up having to randomly disappear because the fire alarm is going off. And second, I have a delivery coming that I need to buzz in, so I am probably going to get a phone call sometime during this stream, so I can buzz in a delivery guy. So that's going to be super fun. Anyways, if you want to check out my latest content, the latest Tristan Won't Shut Up video is about education and schools. The latest Step Back video is about Emma Goldman. My next Tristan Won't Shut Up video is going to be about innovation and creativity and motivation, and how those things are hurt by competition and markets and capitalism, not helped by it. And my next Step Back video, which should be coming out this week, inshallah, looking like it should be. I filmed it yesterday because I had to reshoot it, and that's going to be on... is kind of complicated, but basically it's about a question about what is history, why history is important, collective narratives, and it's sort of my appeal to why Donald Trump and Dinesh D'Souza and, and why the 1776 Commission is bad. So that's sort of like a bunch of my anxieties all tied together. But, you have heard me talk long enough. I think that we all know who you're here to really see. That's Phoebe, but Phoebe is over there. So the second person that you're here to see, I'm definitely a distant third, is you want to see some Mia content. So let's get that going.
Oh. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. It's
You're
all working.
Here.
It is. I think it's working. Oh, God.
I can see you and hear you on the internet.
I can see and hear you on the internet. On these tubes we call the internet. I am back. Hello. It's been a while, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, sick and time travel, it's complicated business.
Yeah, it turns out I don't know how time works, and I still don't know how time works because I was like vibing, like checking Reddit like 5 minutes ago, and then I saw the notification that you were starting the stream, and I was like, oh damn, it's now because Sweden has gone into daylight savings time,
Oh
and
boy.
Canada has not. So once again, I don't know how time works, but thankfully I was home, so it's all gonna go well. However, that does also mean, unfortunately, like in like 15 minutes, I'm gonna have to like take a short break. But then I promise I'll be back for the rest of the stream. I promise.
Alrighty.
I'm like the worst streaming partner, I know, but like I promise I'll be back.
As I said, this stream is just going to be chaos because I have my building decided today is a good day to test the fire alarms, and also I have
Sure, a Monday, why not?
I have delivery coming too that I have to like at least open and buzz them in.
Package.
Yeah. So that's so this is gonna be good stuff.
It's gonna be
On
great.
top of that, you should tell everybody who this person is in my stream box.
My name is Mia Mulder. I'm a YouTuber who does history, lefty, philosophy content. I don't know what I do. I'm struggling with figuring out that myself. I do videos on YouTube.com, and they're pretty good. I like them. I have a video coming out this week.
Sweet. The end of the month means we're all ready to get some treats from the once a month creators. So
Yeah.
it's the good times.
Everyone puts their sponsorships slots like the day before Halloween. 'Cause then everything's just going to be a mess for like 2 months.
Yeah, although December is the day where our AdSense money goes and explodes. So
Oh, this entire year has been the year when our AdSense money goes to explode. Like the algorithm has crushed so much these last few months. Like everyone's going down apparently. Apparently, so they tell me.
December is usually the month where it goes way up. So I'm kind of pumped for that. But who knows? Like I don't know what this year is going to be a weird year in every possible way. So.
Yeah.
I would know something about AdSense if any of my videos were monetized.
Same.
My videos are basically default demonetized until proven otherwise.
That's just the way it goes now. The algorithm has just decided to be like, it's just like it.
The funniest one recently that I have to be like, okay, all right, sure, all right, internet, all right, YouTube, I get it. So I decided to just run. Hey, thank you for the 10 bits. Thank you.
Step back history shirt. Step back history shirt.
Step back history shirt. Oh yeah, I'm wearing my old 2017 Step Back history shirt.
Oh shit! I should find my merch sometime. I have merch, actually.
This is a one of a kind I made for VidCon 2017.
Nice.
Just so that I could be visible when I walked around, because I used to just be a cartoon character. I used to not show my face on the internet. Okay, so there was a thing I was going to talk about. Yes, yeah, the monetization thing. So I decided to appeal a bunch of my like demonetized videos in a block, and a bunch of them got confirmed as no, this is a bad boy video that you can't get money for.
No.
Hey, thank you, Dresden Mlezier. Thank you for following. So the next thing I tried to do was I just appealed all of them, and some of them were, confirmed. This is a bad boy video. No money for you. But one that was approved. Actually, I should probably say which one was not approved. My video that came out at the end of September about Emma Goldman, who was an activist and a woman and a Jewish, and
you can't have that.
Yeah, and just had like she was still like an anarchist activist, but she did life and she did politics and was a woman and Jewish at the same time. But so
that's unacceptable.
That is bad. That is a non-money video. That is a bad boy video that you shouldn't make, because Pepsi doesn't want to be on that.
Pepsi doesn't want to be on that.
But one that did get approved was my video on the Rwandan genocide.
What?
One that
on.
one that I never bothered to appeal because I just saw it and I just said honestly fair.
Yeah.
But then I just pushed a button that like appealed all of them, and they were just like, actually, Pepsi does want to be on Rwandan genocide. Emma Goldman, no. Genocide, yes.
No. Woman, no. Genocide, yes. Exactly.
And I was just like,
YouTube is once again striking gold with these moderation things. Speaking of which, I actually had a video age restricted, which gave me a mild heart attack when I got the email, and it turns out that one of my unlisted videos, like a blooper reel from like 2018, that has a curse word in the title, became age restricted. It has 3 views.
oh boy.
And one of those views have to be someone that reported the video. So like one of my patrons went back, like real back, to find a real old blooper video and decided to be like, this has a curse, report. And YouTube was like, yeah, that's fair, it's a curse.
Someone just cheered and said, sorry, Emma, you should have genocided the English so Tristan could make a dime off of a video about you 100 years later. I got my first age restriction when I did this too, and I got it for my part of my, I think it was like 3 or 4 or 5 part series I did on the history of Al-Qaeda, which again, fair. I guess. If I was going to be age restricted for any video, it would be that one. Luckily, it was not a popular video, so it's fine. Yes, this is life. This is YouTube life. I love how fair and even-handed this whole system is, and how transparent it is. I would love to see the explanation as to why Rwandan genocide, good, Emma Goldman, bad.
I'm sure they have some explanation. No one knows why, no one knows what, but
it's because
according to the techno necromancers over at Google, they have something going on.
I know the kind of people that they use for these kinds of manual review things, and it's like extremely underpaid people working from home with like binders with what they're looking for, and fairly often the faster they can move through them, the more money they make. So
yeah, it's very much like a yes no blink of an eye decision process. So like I get it. I don't want to judge them too much. Also, I should apologize if you hear any like noises. I have a cat in my apartment, and it is desperately trying to get into my room because it can hear me speak, and it is alone. But I cannot because it will be too disruptive. Because it is a small kitten, and so if you hear any weird noises, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's the story there?
That's cat.
How did a cat end up in your apartment?
I have a roommate who has a cat.
Nice.
And roommate is sometimes not here, so the cat is like, well, gotta give someone my bullshit, and I work from home, so.
I had a roommate who had a dog. I think I've told stories about this dog before, but was sort of like, I said that he was no longer a dog, but he was some sort of small bear, because he was a mix of a mastiff and a boxer.
Incredible.
So this dog was like 160 pounds, and was just like huge, but also had like he was one of those like big droopy faced dogs that drooled on everything. But his owner, my roommate, had a girlfriend with a much nicer apartment because she was an Olympic athlete. So he spent a lot of time with her, and so sometimes I would just entertain this huge dog. He was really nice, but like sometimes I'd end up in a situation like, say there's this one time where the fire alarm went off at like 2 a.m. in the middle of the winter time while my roommate was at his girlfriend's place, and I'm like, and the dog is freaking the fuck out, and I'm like, all right, I somehow have to take this dog outside in the middle of the night, in the middle of winter.
Oh.
And and calm him down because he was huge. He was like completely harmless, but like he was like a big baby, but he was just a chonko.
Big chunker. Big scared chunky dog. I love it.
And he had a docked tail, and so his like nub would waggle.
Oh, this is too adorable.
Yeah, I miss Buddy. He was a good dog. He's probably dead by now, but he was a good boy.
He lives on a farm upstate.
Yeah. Other than that, how have you been? What have you been up to?
God, I don't know. It's been one of those months. Gone from oof owie mouth hurty bleeding disease to don't know how time works. I've been okay. I've been working. I've been trying to get by. Lost a lot of time because of being sick, and again, like dealing with roommate stuff. I watched Borat.
I saw Borat 2.
I saw Borat 1 and Borat 2.
You had not seen Borat 1?
I had never seen Borat 1 until like last week, 2 weeks ago or something like that. Like just before the new one.
All those references happened and you never got them?
I mean, you know, it was part of the cultural consciousness to say like my wife, very nice, and those things, but I never like got the context of it. And then I saw Borat 1 and realized you don't need to understand the context that well because it's indescribable.
Yeah.
Comrade DeQuack the Wolf says, no spoiling. It's so hard to spoil Borat.
Yeah.
Either one of them.
Borat 2 was an interesting movie. I did see it over the weekend, and I do have to say that compared to the first one, this one has a lot less stuff that's obviously filmed in front of real people. It has a lot more scripted content and a lot of stuff that could very obviously have been filmed for not a Borat film that was then repurposed to turn into a scene in a Borat film. Yeah. Because it's a lot of stuff that like we knew about. Like we knew that Sacha Baron Cohen did a stunt at CPAC. We know that Sacha Baron Cohen did an anti-mask rally where he did a racist country song and everyone sang along. So like we knew about those. Those were in the news. So it does feel like, and then they introduced a daughter character in order to do scenes with the public that they would not be like, wait a minute, you're Sacha Baron Cohen, i.e. Borat, and then just kill
this
the
is the
whole
character
shtick.
of Borat.
Yeah, we know this. We did this. Because I always thought, like,
my wife.
You could not make a sequel to that movie because now everybody knows who it is. I always thought
it became too successful in order to make a second one. If it had been like a niche comedy movie, then maybe, but it became like too much of a phenomenon.
Yeah. And like I thought that it was a movie that I quoted all the time in high school, and I found out that no, Borat came out in 2006, which was the year I graduated high school. So I was like, I guess I wasn't quoting it in high school. Okay, I guess I'm good.
I was quoting it in high school.
Yes, because you are Babby.
I am Babby. I'm small.
You are small. Okay, so we do have questions from the audience.
Do we? Well, I think I kind of have. Well, I think that's a good opportunity for me to take my sort of like 10, 15 minute sort of break, and I promise I'll be back. And I'm very, very sorry, but I'll let you know on Discord when I can come back, if that works for you.
Yeah.
I promise I'll be back.
Okay.
Again, I'm sorry for all the weird things. I thought time was different this month, but apparently no. We went back an hour in time. But
I gotta do
I'll be
mine
back
in a second. All right. See you in a bit.
See you in a bit.
Alrighty. We'll have Mia Mulder back as soon as she is available. So I saved. Someone asked a question that was specifically for both of us, so I'll just save that for when she comes back. The DCR is environmentally rich, but a lot of it is uncultivated. Would it be worth it to destroy that land and pollute it to help the country and bring a lot of people out of poverty? DCR, are you referring to the DRC, or are you referring like the Democratic Republic of Congo, or are you referring to a different country that I don't know? Or are you referring to the? Yeah, I don't know. Be good. Oh yeah, you just said a little bit later DRC. I do think that Congo's wealth does come from its natural beauty. And in the same way that I feel like the world should be paying Brazil to not destroy the rainforest because it is a unique, beautiful feature of biodiversity that's still like a little brief, tiny remaining area of natural biodiversity remaining on Earth. that I think that we should honestly be paying Congo to not do that. And to some extent, sometimes we do. They do have like some pretty they do have some funded like nature reserves and things like that. But the problem is that now they're starting to realize that there's probably oil in Congo, and that is starting to become an issue. There's a really great documentary on Netflix called Virunga that kind of goes into a nature reserve in Congo that is available. But at this point, we need to be like hang on to what little biodiversity we haven't destroyed yet, and so I would not be on board for. I want to just pay them off to just not do that. I would rather that nobody have to do any work and that everybody gets undeserved labor because because we have preserved basically an unlosable natural resource than trying to get their economy up by chopping down what little old growth sub-Saharan African jungle is left. Let's say that. Sorry for the odd name D&D character name. I know that feeling. No, I don't. My D&D characters have names like Max, so... Oh, here we go. I said. Hello. Yep, one sec. And push the button to get them in. And then I have to message Kelly to say that she is here. So, put up with me through this chaos stream. Alrighty. Is it true that Mia Mulder is actually a paid actor by George Soros to make the anarchists and leftists look adorable? I'm going to save that one for when she comes back. Let's see. This is have either of you seen the new Borat movie yet? The answer is yes, obviously. In the Rome novel I'm reading at the moment, there's a bit where there's an earthquake, and one of the educated Greek characters says that it's air escaping from underground shaking stuff. What are your thoughts, like an old-time wrong thing people believe before testing stuff with this thing? What's your favorite old-time thing that people believe before testing stuff with a thing? Ooh. I swear, my brain just, catches fire the second I have to name a favorite thing, and I never understand how to answer it, ever. Let me think. I definitely thought that the idea that the gods, or that El Nino is created because the gods are hungry for human blood. I always found that interesting. That sort of was a large folk belief in central Mexico, because in central Mexico, which is kind of like a semi-arid region, in central Mexico, the El Nino effect can cause massive droughts. And so, since they didn't understand how the El Nino effect worked, obviously, they started to think that it had to do with human sacrifice and such. Is the fact that they were unable to make a Bolivia coup stick evidence that the American empire is losing its influence around the world? Possibly. It could be evidence that, specifically the intelligence community has been hampered under Trump. Although, I would say that the intelligence and, the sort of, military-industrial complex has definitely benefited a lot from Trump. Trump is sort of, emasculated a bit, but I definitely... It'd be interesting to know, because I feel like this is a thing that might have been the case. Although the American intelligence community has been bad at trying to kill leftist leaders for a long time. I'm interested to see what happens if Joe Biden wins this election and his plan is to be let's continue the CIA but make it woke. is going to work, because with like the Jack Ryan TV show and like all this stuff, there definitely is this attempt to, and the Section 31 Star Trek show that's supposedly in production. All of that together is basically saying, in my mind, that they're trying to rehabilitate the CIA to make them non-political when they have always been. So, fuck that. I liked your Al-Qaeda video, thank you. Let's see. Another question from Mia. I'll save that one. Phoebe and the kitten will conspire to take over the Monday Hangout. Oh boy. Phoebe is sort of in the stage. Phoebe's kind of old, so the stage of her life is that she's in right now is the one where she sleeps all day, every day. So that would involve getting up, which is not exactly her strong suit. So the legal podcast talked about faithless electors thing. They said that if Florida wanted to do that, they'd have to change their state's laws before the election date. If they did do it after the fact, how confident would the courts be to tell them they can't make it retroactive? Given that the Supreme Court is going to have Amy Coney Barrett on it, like the thing is that like the Supreme Court now has like 3 people who worked for Bush on the Bush v. Gore Supreme Court case. So I could totally see if there is any question about how the election is going to turn out and how the electors are going to turn out, that the Supreme Court is going to back the Republicans, almost definitely, no matter how shitty a case it is. So the other day, one of the liberal podcasters I follow was talking about that teacher who got killed in France. He said something to the effect of course I want Biden to let in as many refugees as possible, but if you want to kill somebody over a drawing, perhaps we shouldn't let you in. Thoughts on that take? It'd be weird for... How do you find out exactly? Like, what is your test? Do you tell people, like, hey, do you hate drawings? Because in my mind, it's like, that sounds like an impossible thing to test to decide whether or not to let a refugee in. And it sounds more often like trying to justify to yourself to limit people who come from majority Muslim countries or people who are too religious, which is not my favorite take. Olympic athletes, impressive. Yeah. One of my friends, when I was in my first and second masters, I haven't really seen her in a bunch of years, but she's a Olympic rower. She was in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics, I think. Yeah, she was in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. And I don't know if she's coming back. I don't know if she was going to be in the Tokyo one or not, but yeah. She was what's it called? She was in the same master's program that I was in my first year, and so was my roommate, and the two of them started dating, and as far as I know, I think they're getting married now or something, or they are married. I don't know. It's been close to 4 years since I've last seen them. All right. All right, Mia is back. Let's get her in. Hello? You are silent. Your mic is muted in Discord. I can see the little thingy.
The reason... Okay, hello, I'm back.
Yay!
3rd time's the charm. I guess the 4th? I don't know. Hello, I'm back.
Hello, everything's good?
Yeah, I'm good. Now everything's good, and I can stream to my heart's content.
Excellent. All right, so
what have I missed?
What
weird questions about Borat?
We actually talked about Bolivia a little bit, and about some people, some now like more woke liberals saying because of what happened in Paris last week that they're like, maybe we should like just testing the waters about whether or not they should like let religious people, religious Muslims, like immigrate into a country. And I just got a super chat from Zane Rossler. Thank you, Zane Rossler, for the super chat. Is the NRO Syndicast commune from Holy Grail an accurate picture of anarcho-socialism?
Yes.
It's the only one. I mean, it's, yeah, I think, like, they did a surprisingly good amount of research for it, so yeah.
Yeah. We're an anarcho-syndicalist collective.
Although syndicalism is specifically revolving around unions, but I'll take it.
It's a peasants' union, don't think about it.
Yeah, I got some questions I saved up because they were specifically for either both of us or just you.
Ah.
The first one was, which of the two is the Herodotus and which is the Thucydides? Also, is the Ibn Khaldun and who is the Simakian? I think this is of the two of us.
Yeah.
So, which is the Herodotus and the Thucydides? So, I'm trying to
I
remember.
know Herodotus. I don't know the other one.
Thucydides, I think, I'm trying to remember who Thucydides is.
I am Bimbo.
Thucydides is... What did he write? He wrote a book. Oh, they didn't like...
What?
Apparently, Herodotus... so Thucydides came right after Herodotus. So let's see. Herodotus records in his histories not only the events of the Persian Wars but also the geographic and okay.
I think Thucydides. Oh, I see. Many authors, starting with the historian Thucydides, have accused Herodotus of making up stories for entertainment.
Oh boy.
I think we're both. I think we both have elements of both, but I think you're more Thucydides.
I'm more
in the sense that you're probably more accurate than I am.
I mean, I'll take it. I do read way too many books for each video, and I realize that, like, at the point that I'm like, oh wow, I'm reading like 2 books where everything I'm going to use in the script was in the first 2 books I read, and so I'm like, okay, I don't need to read any more of these.
Yeah.
I do read way too much for my videos.
Yeah, that's why you're accurate. I don't read enough for my videos. I've read what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. That Italian dude who wrote about politics, Machiavelli. I've been reading Machiavelli for my upcoming thing, and that's not really like reading modern history or anything. And that's basically the only thing I've read. That's not true.
I don't read any primary sources for my books or for my videos. I feel like that's like the part where I'm like, oh, I wish I like had more quotes so that I can get more of my friends to say things in my videos.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
It's true. The next question the next question on that was, who is the Ibn Khaldun and who is the Simakian? And this is another situation where I know who Ibn Khaldun is, but I don't know who Simakian is. It's a Chinese historian, I guess.
I don't know any of these people.
These are like all of the what's it called? The old school, like these are like some of like the ancient historians. Like Ibn Khaldun was an Arabic guy who like basically traveled around the Islamic world and wrote about what he saw. Like he's one of the people who went to Mali during the reign of Mansa Musa and like wrote about how they're like fucking loaded over there in Timbuktu.
Yeah.
And, like,
is he the guy who went to like modern day Russia and wrote about Vikings? Is that another guy?
I think that was an Indian historian.
Potentially.
Who was dramatized in the wonderful book Eaters of the Dead, which then got turned into a Hollywood movie called The 13th Warrior. Because I guess Eaters of the Dead did not translate well to a movie title.
That is the best movie title, though. Why would they ever change that? Eater of the Dead?
Eaters of the Dead, apparently.
Holy shit.
And it was a Michael Crichton novel. about an Indian historian who goes and lives amongst Vikings for a while.
That's a really fucking good title for a movie.
You might remember it as a movie. The movie was called The 13th Warrior.
I'm gonna watch that after this stream. It has a 33 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, I didn't say it was good. I just said it existed. I always found Michael Crichton's history novels kind of shitty anyway. Okay, the next question we got here is it true that Mia Mulder is actually a paid actor by George Soros to make anarchists and leftists look adorable?
Yes. But he hasn't paid me in a while, so I don't... it doesn't feel right.
It's true. George Soros is incredibly stingy with the cash. Why does Sweden still occupy Sky? I don't know what the A with the circle over it. I don't even know how you even...
Skåne.
Skåne, which is rightfully Danish land. Also, why does Germany still have Schleswig-Holstein?
The part about Germany I know specifically, and that's because after the Second World War, they had a series of votes around a lot of like disputed territory around Germany to be like, hey, where do you people actually want to live though? And the people in Schleswig-Holstein decided to be like, well, no, they're German, so they decided to stay with Germany. And then we had a large like areas around like the borders to Poland that were like, fuck Germany. Nah. However, Skåne is rightful Swedish land.
This is why
we took it by right, a good right, fair and square.
I have this is one of the reasons that like European history makes me like just completely zonk out, because it's people making humongous deals about extremely small areas of land for like
It takes like an hour to drive through Skåne.
Yeah, but like
and us and Denmark have had literally the most wars of any two countries in the history of the world over that little piece of land. Other pieces of land too, but like that little piece of land.
Yeah, like it's like European history is like, oh yeah, why did World War I happen? Well, like there's this part of France where the people there are ethnically German, and therefore these two countries have to be at war for all time. And it's like, oh
yes,
why is this a thing? Or like the fact that like what's it called? The fact that you can still like start a fight with a Greek person by mentioning that Macedonia is a country. Like I just these places are so small. Like, why do people give a shit about this? I don't know.
Because we have so many cultures. America, like a lot of like colonial nations, have just like they created one culture in the sort of port of entry, and then just spread that one culture all over the continent by force. Whereas in Europe, there are like you walk for 20 minutes and suddenly there's like a completely different language structure.
Ah.
Although apparently Schleswig-Holstein might have been in World War One. I don't really know. Territory history is not really my biggest thing. But they had a referendum there anyway, and that's why they did it.
I bet if Magnus Hirschfeld had an opinion about it, you'd know.
Listen, that's probably true. I don't think he had an opinion on it, though.
Probably
I think he had opinions on the war, but he didn't really have opinions on specific territory exchange, I think.
He was far too horny to be thinking about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He was Thirst Publishing.
Basically.
Okay, first one is a question for you. And again, suppose you're appointed Supreme Champion of History Curricula if the EU ever becomes a country and have to write a textbook. What events would you put in the books?
Sorry, what? Can you repeat that?
So say the EU becomes achieves the dream of becoming a country.
Mm-hmm. And unified Europe, yeah. And
you become Supreme Champion of the History Curricula. What do you include in the textbook?
All of the genocides that Europeans did.
Yeah.
All of them, actually, not just the ones that Europeans want to remember, because it's convenient.
And Operation Gladio, which I definitely I want to make a video about Operation Gladio so much. Do you know about this?
I know what it is, but I keep forgetting what it is.
It's when the CIA
stay behind. Yes. I know Operation Gladio. It's when because it was a huge conspiracy theory in Sweden for like ages that the CIA had like stay behind operations and trained specific Swedes to be like terrorist organizations in the case of a Russian invasion, and it was a huge conspiracy theory, and then it turned out it was all true.
Oh, that must be a different thing. Gladio is in Italy, where they specifically the CIA gave money and armed former fascists in order to attack communists or do random acts of terrorism and blame it on communists.
I think it's part of the same operation,
Okay.
but because I'm Swedish, I kind of only know about the Swedish part of it. But it's definitely. I think that's the same kind of operation.
Yeah. It's the same program that killed your prime minister, allegedly.
Allegedly, probably.
With,
almost definitely.
The CIA, along with apartheid South Africa, teamed up to kill your prime minister.
Like weirder things have happened.
Yeah, if that ever gets exposed, that the CIA killed, can't remember what his name is anymore. I always forget, but it would.
Palme.
Yeah, I would feel like I would be completely unsurprised.
Yeah. I mean, it's something like the Cold War. That shit happened.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting until like the truth comes out. It won't, but if it does, and we can finally make movies about it.
Especially because what's it called? Olof Palme, like there would have been a motivation to kill him to take pressure off of apartheid South Africa, because apartheid South Africa was a capitalist ally.
And also like taking pressure off America for all of the wars they're doing.
Yeah. And the Soviet Union was trying to make inroads with the ANC. It wasn't going super well, but that was a thing they were trying to do. Fun. Cold War. Cool. I love how the Cold War made all the capitalist countries take sides with fascists and racists against anti-colonial forces. We were the good guys in that conflict. Good.
Doing great.
Good job being non-aligned. I feel like that was definitely the way to go.
Yay, third world countries. Hell yeah.
Yep. In the UK, and I would guess the US and Canada too, it's normal for companies to send LGBTQ members of the PR department to march in pride events and wearing stuff advertising for the company. Do you think organizers should discourse discourage that kind of thing, or would you like to allow that kind of thing to be inclusive? And this came up because like the whole like corporatization of pride is like a thing. A discourse.
I fucking hate it. I think it shouldn't be allowed in Pride. That's a hot take, and I know that like if someone from the Stockholm Pride like board is watching this, sorry, but you've read my emails, but I don't think it should be allowed. I don't give a shit about the sponsorships. Like I don't give a shit. As a former like LGBT activist, I feel like it's extremely damaging to what the organization of Pride is, and what it has. What it sort of originated at, and even the goals that it kind of has today. Because right now, at least in Stockholm, it's more of a sort of music festival, and like, it's just a festival. It's not really LGBT festival anymore. It's just a festival.
Yeah.
And, so it's like that's fine. You can have a festival, but what bothers me is when people just have a festival and then claim that cool, we did gay rights. We had some musicians, and we had some rainbows, and we have done gay rights.
Yeah, I don't think the last time I went to a pride parade, I don't think I really needed all of the pictures of two male models smiling with white teeth next to a Colgate logo.
Yeah, exactly. In Sweden, we the military recruits at these places too. So like there are like military vehicles going down Stockholm.
Oh dear.
With like uniformed military people, no guns, thankfully, but still, being like, you know, everyone can participate in killing brown people.
Fun.
Great.
Yeah. At least our pride kicked out the cops, which is nice.
That's good.
But yeah,
I feel cops is more of a acute issue to sort of take out, and like law enforcement officers and violent elements in general, such as the military and cops. That's like the more important bit. But like having sponsorships in that sort of sense isn't necessarily bad in and of itself. It's just that I've never seen anyone pull it off in a productive way.
And capitalism is like capitalism often acts to like I'm trying to think how to explain this properly. The capitalist motive, like as part of how to continue to sell people products, is to try and turn people into marketable demographics, and trying to create an LGBTQ market in order to sell people things is... I feel like that's not the way that our identity should be formed.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd rather be a person instead of a demographic. But
yeah, you'd think that'd be possible, but
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
boy.
So that's my hot take. That's my hot take in that question.
Yep. Zane, thank you for the super chat. Asking shadiest thing Canada did in the Cold War, and also all hail Queen Mia. Shadiest thing Canada did in the Cold War. I think the biggest thing about Canada, like the biggest role Canada played in the Cold War, was sometimes we stood up to the United States, but more often than not, because Canada has the very unfortunate position of being the country that is between America and the Soviet Union, which caused some issues. I would probably say that the shittiest thing that Canada did was approve the DO line. So what happens is that in the Arctic, in Canadian territory, the United States has a line of radar stations that are there to basically exist to... So because if the Soviets were ever going to nuke America, the missiles would have most likely flown over the North Pole to come down, right? And so they had these radar stations to basically detect if the world was ending. And America was like, we want to put them down here at this latitude, so that if the missiles are coming, we'll be able to vacate any American city before they come. And the Canadian government was like, hey, what if you moved it up here so that if it detected it fast enough, we could evacuate like Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto and Vancouver. And the Americans went, we're going to put it here. We're going to put it down here. So Canada just like allowed for these early warning missile things to be built in our country that can detect Soviet nukes before they hit American cities, but not Canadian cities. And I was like, oh, cool. We let ourselves get owned so hard by the United States in that conflict.
God. That's horrifying, honestly.
Yeah. The Canadian Arctic was a part of the Cold War that doesn't really get told a whole lot outside of it, but yeah, and now that we're talking about remilitarizing the Arctic, like there's a few Canadians who are like, Canada should have a real army so that we can militarize the Arctic, and I'm always just like, are you fucking serious? You really think that between Russia and the United States that Canada is going to be able to field a military large enough to compete with either of them? Because like right now there's as climate change starts to melt the Arctic and the Northwest Passage becomes more available, there's like this whole thing about like, well, there might be oil in the Arctic, and it's now going to be a big trade route, and so Russia, the United States, and Canada, and Denmark, and Norway are all like are now like finding more and more ridiculous ways to make claims to all of this area that previously no one gave a shit about, so the borders were really like vague and nonsensical.
Yeah.
But now, and then it came with like, there's some interesting new things, like how the United States wrote a justification that because they own Alaska, that they claim sovereign territory over the entire Arctic, and Canada's map.
Sounds very American, yeah.
And if you were to look at a Canadian map of Canada, our Arctic islands go very far north into a lot of islands that Russia and Denmark both have claims on.
Yeah, Canada is one of those countries that where the northern border is like, yeah, it's somewhere. It doesn't really matter, really, until now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And Russia's just like it's always just funny to see like these kind of like the idea of like militarist Canadians that actually like want Canada to try and compete with weapons in Arctic waters that like the Russians like as if the Russians and the Americans aren't just going to run complete roughshod over any territorial claims we make up there.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the fucking point? Suppose you win the lottery, so you're not working because you're rich, but also not exploiting anyone. What class, if any, do you belong to?
I mean, you kind of exist outside. Like, I think the concept of class is really hard to apply to an individual. Like the concept of you can, but it's not a universal rule. In my interpretation of it, anyway. Obviously, there have been hundreds of different interpretations of how to interpret class, but I interpret class as being a sort of like group-based thing. So, like, you can talk about like an individual winning the lottery, not working, being rich, and like having a lifestyle of someone who is rich but not exploiting anyone, and not getting that wealth from exploitation. So. But the people who make up that group I feel is not significant enough to have a huge societal impact to the point where you can designate it a class.
Yeah, it's too small.
But they are rich, which is like a class in of itself, but doesn't exist within the sort of like bourgeoisie proletariat class view of it. But they are rich.
Bourgeoisie like the thing is like. For some, because like there's the people who are there's always a discourse about every 2 or 3 months on Twitter about how if you make too much money on YouTube, you are all of a sudden part of the wrong class and now a bad. But really, like what class means more often is, or what class actually means is more where your material interests lie. And if your material interests lie in because you own things that make money for you, like assets. So that's like, that is owning a company, owning a widget factory, or having your wealth entirely in like financial products that basically make money off of other people owning factories. Like all those things are, that is the bourgeoisie class. And proletariat class is where you exchange chunks of your life for money. Now, an independently wealthy person exists out of both of those. Because, what class you're in a Marxist sense, is not so much a factor of whether, like, how much, like, just how big your bank account is. It more has to do with these, like,
the relationship to the means of production.
Yeah. And I would say that, yeah, the independently wealthy, or, like, because you could say, like, the lottery winners, or like the family lottery winners, like the idle rich, I think is the term of just like wealthy fail sons who don't really have any, who have tons of money but don't actually own any companies or do anything. They kind of exist out of the system, but as you mentioned, they are such a small part of the overall thing that their political material interests don't matter a whole lot.
Yeah.
My guess is that culturally they tend to associate more with bourgeoisie interests, because once you're rich, you start hobnobbing with those people and you're going to start seeing the world through their perspective. And also, people who are independently wealthy don't tend to just sit on their giant pile of money like a dragon. They tend to get invested. They tend to invest it in assets, or they tend to spend it all and end up becoming proletariat all over again. So if they do get into asset investiture and things like that, then that puts them into the bourgeoisie class, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they're not going to stay in the sort of independent class for very long. And if they do, again, they're probably insignificant. Although it should be said that like they can be significant, because I remember a significant portion of the independence election like a budget and like movement in Scotland was like funded by some couple who just like won the lottery or something. And like 80% of all the funding for the independence vote came from like this one couple who won the lottery. So I mean, they can be significant and can be influential, but you know, I feel like those are exceptions to the rule.
And it's harder to gauge what their material interests are, because when I always think about like, when I always try to be like, what class does someone belong in, you have to more think about it like capitalists succeeding or failing. Capitalism succeeding or failing, does it help or hurt that person? And if it helps that person, then it that now kind of puts you in the class that will defend capitalism as the way it is because you're benefiting from it. If not, then you're on the other side of the equation. That kind of feeds more into the idea of like you made too much money on YouTube. You are now an evil.
God, I can't wait until I make enough money to claim that.
Yeah,
support us on Patreon, please, so we can become accused of being bourgeoisie while struggling to pay tax.
It's fun. I love this. Because, like right now, technically, I am part of the bourgeoisie because I own a business that employs exactly one person, and that one person is me.
You are exploiting yourself. You are both bourgeoisie and proletariat.
Yeah, I think they call it petit bourgeoisie or something.
Yeah, that's what most YouTubers like technically are, I guess.
Yeah.
Which feels great.
Yep. Because for tax purposes, I made a business, employed myself, and then pay myself from that business's profits.
Yeah, I should probably do that to reduce my own taxes. I pay so much fucking tax. I live in Sweden, so... Yeah,
because I was about to say, like, I don't make enough money. I make enough money, or the amount of money I make from YouTube, the government still pays me taxes. I get tax rebates.
Unfortunately, I'm not there yet. Although I do have free education and healthcare, so, I can't complain.
Fair. Yeah, I'm in the tax bracket that's like, okay, you're too poor to take money from for taxes.
God, I wish that was me.
Yeah, well, I have to pay taxes, and then I have to say how much taxes I paid, and they'll be like, oh, you paid this much taxes while being this poor. Here, have some money back because we feel sorry for you.
That's not going to happen with me.
Yeah. Plus,
I did that, and they were like, you have to pay double tax. And it's like, fuck.
Well, like I said, as you said, you got free. You graduated university without being 30 grand in debt, which I feel like was,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I feel like I would need to get tax refunds for quite a long time before it paid off for the fact of how much money I spent to go to university. So just that alone, and
yeah,
I'm trying to think what else we have. Like you don't have to pay to go to the dentist, do you?
No, we do.
Oh, you do? You have private dentistry?
Dental is not part of free healthcare because teeth are special bones.
Yeah, luxury bones.
They're luxury bones for rich people.
Yeah,
it's still subsidized, but it's like it's not part of the free part of it.
Yeah, because in Canada that's the case too, and also glasses and psychiatrists are all still private. It's like well.
Oh, we have psychiatry, and thank God for that. Otherwise, I would be bouncing against the walls.
What's it called? My wife has some healthcare bonuses or healthcare, what's it called? Supplementary insurance from work, and so she was like, you have this much money that you need to use on secondary health insurance, so you need to like go get. You should go see a therapist like 2 or 3 times so that we can justify it, so we can use this money before it's gone. And I'm like, all right, sure.
Why not? When you can.
Yeah. Okay, sometimes people say plebs were the Roman proletariat. Can you have a proletariat before capitalism or even feudalism?
I mean, not really. like the terms that are used exist for some sort of reason. Like you can make an historical analogy, but to say that they are proletariat, I feel is an anachronism.
Yeah, it's definitely an analogy. Like capital, you can't really have. Like proletariat is a specific word in Marxist theory for relationships to means of production within a capitalist system. So,
yeah, without that system, you can't really do it.
Like plebs were not wage workers, as far as I know.
No.
Okay. Can we say that the military-industrial complex in the U.S. is a sort of deep state? So apparently Turkey has multiple deep states.
Kinda.
Oh yeah, what did I heard that the man who married his teacher, who also happens to be president of France, got really fucking pissed at Turkey and like withdrew his ambassador and like is saying basically like I'm not going to do anything until Erdogan apologizes for something he said. And I was like, what did Erdogan? I mean, Erdogan said.
He said, yeah. He said like some insult or something like about Macron.
So it wasn't over the... Okay, I was like, maybe... I thought he might have been taking a principled stance over the fact that Turkey is very thinly veiled by putting on an Azerbaijan-colored mask, invading Armenia right now to do Armenian genocide too. But...
Of course that's not what he's doing. Are you kidding me? This is France we're talking about. I think he insulted his wife or something. Like that's not a joke.
Yeah, I mean, Macron.
I'm gonna have to check.
The fact that Macron married his high school teacher is, like, I mean, it's funny objectively, but also that's kind of cruel because that is just French culture. If I remember, if Macron marrying his teacher kind of makes him the most French person on earth. Now, if he was cheating on his teacher wife with another one of his teachers, that might be the most French thing that you could be doing. And I don't know if Macron's doing that right now, but...
So apparently Erdogan insulted Macron on TV about the treatment of Muslims in France, which is a lot more serious.
So he made a legitimate criticism about the way that France treats Muslims.
You hate to see it. The worst person you know made a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Macron needs treatment on a mental level. Okay. What else can be said of a state who doesn't understand freedom of belief and who behaves in a way of millions of people who live in a different faith? Yeah, so Erdogan basically said, like, you need therapy, bro. And France withdrew their ambassadors. Yeah, so diplomatic tensions are actually rising.
So, okay, what makes me mad is that this has nothing to do at all with the fact that fucking Turkey and Azerbaijan are just invading Armenia.
Yeah, Europe, you're just like, what? You were saying something?
Fucking hell.
I don't think most Europeans even know where Armenia is. If I'm completely honest, I don't think they do.
I could just imagine like a super, like a giant brain logic man trying to be like, I don't know what side to take, because one side has Muslims and the other side is the country where Anita Sarkeesian's ethnicity is from. And it's like, oh no, that's not fair, because Anita Sarkeesian's actually from Iraq. She immigrated to Canada from Iraq and then immigrated to the United States.
Oh, look at that.
But she's still Armenian. She's an Iraqi Armenian.
Mm.
The more you know. I found that out when I had a conversation with her, and I found out that she and I went to the same high school for a bit. Yeah.
What are the odds? Damn.
For real. Now,
Canada had 3 high schools.
She graduated before I started at that high school, but we did technically go to the same high school.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I wanted to add her to notable people from my high school, but I think she moved away before she graduated, so maybe that doesn't count. I don't know.
Not technically a graduate, yeah.
Yeah. Suppose a refugee did have bad views. they still need help because of the no home thing. Even if they had mind reading, it would make more sense to just treat them as special cases. Yeah?
Yeah. It's this weird. A lot of European countries have this attitude of like, well, if we just don't let in people with bad views, we're going to be fine. But one of the like, there is no better way to like radicalize someone into like anti-European extremism than to be like, you had one bad opinion, so now you get no food or home. So like, of course, people are going to be like, well, okay, well, I'm just going to go to people who will take me in, which are, you know,
I accuse you of the crime of being too Muslim.
Like, this is what a lot of European countries like whole ass do.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Love to live in Fortress Europe.
I put out a spicy tweet last week that got me some extremely unique replies where I said, hey, is anyone noticing that the first, second, and third most populous country on earth are either committing a genocide of Muslims or moving in that direction at a rapid rate? And what I found was interesting about that is because I was expecting a bunch of people with Stalin avatars with a bunch of like North Korea flag emojis on their Twitter profile being like, well, actually, Democracy Now! And Al Jazeera are both run by the CIA, and all the, like, what's it called? Please protect the very socialist country with all of the billionaires called China. But no, guess who found this tweet and caught a snifter of it? I got the fucking Mahindra Modi stans who went like, oh
no, you fucked up.
Modi's not doing a genocide, but he should. That was basically their thesis.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Oh boy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what's it called? When you get into the, if you ever awaken the Hindu nationalists, oh boy.
Oh boy. Narendra Modi stands. Like I've seen like on a distance, like a battle raging far away between like Narendra Modi stands and like the rest of the world. And I've been very lucky to avoid that, so I'm very sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, someone said Ania Sarkeesian's an Iraqi, Armenian, Canadian feminist. Did they grow her in a lab to annoy chuds? A little bit. Her family immigrated from Iraq to Canada. Were Iraqi Armenians who immigrated to Canada when she was a child, and then when she was a teenager, they immigrated to the United States. That's like multiple levels of immigration, as is common with like diaspora groups like Armenian people. Okay. Is the monomyth really universal, or does it only apply to stories coming out of Europe and the Near East? The monomyth. So have you ever heard of the hero with 1,000 faces?
The what?
So the hero with 1,000 faces is a pretty popular book, kind of using Jungian archetype analysis to like legends and myths from around the world. And the guy who wrote it kind of came to a conclusion that you can kind of boil down all of our mythology from all cultures to a sort of set of steps, which is called the hero's journey.
I know that.
Sorry?
I know the hero's journey from like story writing and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the thing is that this has become extremely influential in writing. So now we intuitively understand the hero's journey because of this book with the monomyth, we've sort of incorporated it into our thing. But is the monomyth truly universal, or does it only apply to stories coming out of Europe and the Near East? Good question. I haven't delved deep on that, but I definitely have a few question marks surrounding a thought that there's just one archetype that understands all of world mythology, and on top of that being based on Jungian archetypes, which is like the same kind of theory, which is like kind of like using like Freudian analysis, which is also a thing that like no psychologist would do in a modern day age. Jungian analysis is like the same sort of thinking that inspired a guy, what's it called, a lobster dad by the name of Jordan B. Peterson.
Lobster daddy.
Yeah, and so I have a feeling that it might might be a bit of a incomplete thing, but I also can't I haven't read any responses to The Hero with a Thousand Faces, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I also agree. I agree with you, but I also think that I think anything. I don't think a lot of things are universal. You know, I don't think anything is universal in that case, especially not something based on Jung.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's that. I'm extremely skeptical of the monomyth. But the problem is that the monomyth has also kind of become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because now it's so based in our understanding of story writing that now the monomyth is actually kind of a thing, because we have internalized the monomyth into the way that we write fiction. So there's that.
Yeah, it's become a thing, but it's not inherently a thing.
Yeah. Tristan, why are you a bigger joke than Kenneth Feder? I don't know. I got that comment on my video about ancient aliens, and I had never understood what that was about. But as you know, I don't know if you've been watching my new YouTube channel, Tristan Won't Shut Up, but I introduce myself in every video based on abusive comments or random shit I've been called in comments. And someone said I was a bigger joke than Kenneth Feder, so I just decided to introduce myself as that in my most recent video. I got somebody saying I look like Al from Al's Toy Barn again, and I'm like, do I just say that again? Who knows?
Just the age-old title.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's true. I don't get what I don't. It's not even true.
I don't know. It was, and the thing is that it's happened independently with a bunch of different people, because it originally started with a bunch of libertarians that I pissed off by pointing out that there's a lot of racism. I basically said something on the lines of you can this guy's either a libertarian or a racist, but I repeat myself, and that pissed off a bunch of teenage libertarians who decided that they wanted to harass me for years, and so they kept trying to brigade my Discord server at one point. They've tried brigading me on streams and stuff like that, and it's so random and weird that this one group of libertarian teenagers have just been mad for years, and they use the Al from Al's Toy Barn thing the entire time, and but apparently it still comes up every once in a while, and it's so weird.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. What's the difference between anarcho-socialism and anarcho-communism? I don't even know if anarcho-socialism is a word.
Yeah, I haven't heard that much, actually.
Because socialism is a term for creating a state that is sort of transitionary towards communism. Anarchists, specifically anarcho-communists, are the Marxists who want to skip the transitionary part and go straight to the communism as Marx talked about in the Capital and the Communist Manifesto, which by its nature doesn't have a state. While socialists tend to want to make a state that does good things, and sort of as we move away from capitalism, slowly dissolve the mechanisms of the state until they're no longer needed. So that's basically the major difference between the two thoughts. And so an anarcho-socialist, maybe there's someone who exists that thinks that we need a transitionary state between what we have now and anarchism, which I guess is called Xanderhallism. Because Xander Hall said something in a stream that he was like, we should have a what's it called, a transitionary capitalist state between what we have now and anarchism. And I was like, that was a weird thing you said. Okay. The internet's fun, and I love that there's so many words.
There's too many words.
It's
too many words that were coined over 100 years ago to apply to a society that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, and just have tons of meanings now that sometimes are contradictory with each other, or have different colloquial terms. Yeah, it makes discourse so easy. If you think about it, I was thinking about it man, if I had a nickel for every time a political argument devolved and fell apart and went nowhere because the two people just had a different definition for the same word, I would be the richest person on the internet.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't mind getting Maya. Why did I say Maya? That's what my mom says when she says your name. She says, "What do you? How's Maya's? Did Maya come on the stream?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah."
It's a common mispronunciation of my name.
In the Rome novel I'm reading at the moment, there's a bit where there's an earthquake, and one of the quote-unquote educated Greek characters says that it's air escaping underground and shaking stuff. What's your favorite old-time wrong thing people believed before testing stuff was a thing? So what's your favorite, like, pre-scientific explanation for a phenomenon in the world?
I'm gonna have to think about that.
Alrighty.
There is, I don't remember who, but there's also like one of ancient Greek thinkers who existed around the time where you didn't need to test anything. All you needed to do was have a theory that sounded good, and you'd be fine.
I do like the pre-scientific idea that the definition of the brain was called head offal, which they just thought it was just like useless guck that lives in your head, because all the thinking obviously happens in the heart.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you stop the heart, you die. So obviously that's where all the thinking happens.
That's why the ancient Egyptians took out their brains when they were preserving them, because they're like, this is just like random crap in the head that we don't actually need.
I love that. It's great. I think one of the I think one of mine is that the theory that just the theory that things fall depending on how big they are. Because that, and I don't know who thought this because it makes no sense, but the idea was that the bigger something is, the slower it will fall. And the theory was that the reasons feathers fall is because they're bigger, which is like they're on to something here because that has a bigger surface area and therefore encounters like more wind resistance, and it's very light, so it therefore like coats in wind resistance. So they're close to something. But the theory was that like this means that if we can take any sort of material at all in the world, and we can, as long as we package it in something that is the same size, it will fall at the exact same speed.
Makes sense to me.
Makes perfect sense.
I also love Democritus, who invented the concept of atoms and did it through a thought experiment that if you cut cheese small enough, you could get an atom of cheese. And I was just like,
oh yes. And he got it right. He almost got it right.
He's so close. All right, suppose somebody wants like, oh man, I forgot about there's a blackface Justin Trudeau joke in Borat 2, and it fucking rules. All right, suppose like somebody wants like blackface to be a crime. Okay, suppose like someone wants like blackface crime and walk around somewhere like Harlem basically just to piss off black people. Would you want that to be a crime?
I don't think I would want it to be a crime, but like if you're an asshole, like people are gonna treat you like you're an asshole.
I can't think of anybody who would want that to actually be like a crime in which the cops would get involved. Yeah,
I don't think anyone would be super into that. I mean, depending on how you do it, it's already a crime depending on how you do it, because it can be like construed as harassment.
Yeah.
Like if you go looking for trouble and like you want people to like fight you because of something, yeah, that's just harassment, but that's not necessarily because of the blackface. So I don't think that would be a crime. Mm-hmm. That should be a crime.
What are the best and worst historians from your countries?
The best and worst? Oh, hang on.
I have to think of if I even know a Canadian historian that the best historian, the worst historian is Tristan Johnson. That's the worst Canadian historian. I don't really have a good answer for this.
I have for Sweden. I'm just gonna see if this is if I got the right. Yes, I do. Perfect. So the best Swedish historian, in my opinion, is Dick Harrison. That is his name. His name is Dick Harrison, and he is actually a pretty good historian. He sometimes goes to what's it called? He sometimes go to on TV shows and eats old history food, like based on old recipes.
Nice.
And talks about why people would eat this awful food and what kind of status symbols that food held. It's pretty good. The worst Swedish historian by far, and I hate him. And if he's watching this, know that I hate you. I don't. You're probably a decent enough person, but you are a novel historian. It's Kjell Lekeby. He wrote the book. He's written a lot about Queen Christina of Sweden, and has basically started a completely anachronistic myth that she was a trans man, based on one line in her diary that said, "Wish I had the respect that dudes have."
Yes, I think we have visited this area of history before.
Yes, we have, and I'm like, and this has sort of become a myth that has like spread throughout a lot of like LGBT circles in Sweden, because rightfully Swedes are, like the trans community in general are like desperate to get any sort of historical representation. So this one guy who has also written about like how alchemy could work, and what else has he written? Talking about the Illuminati. Sure, why not? Very reliable historian. Because of what he's been saying, I sometimes see people go on like history tours in my town, because the city that I live in was the seat of power for Queen Christina. Mm-hmm. Like she abdicated the throne like 10 minutes away. But sometimes I see like tours going on with tourists being like, and here King Christina, who identified as a man, and it's like there's no evidence for this. Shut the fuck up.
Should we tell everybody about your hobby of following these tour guides around and being like, no, like you just like what's it called? You're like the mystery shopper, but you like you go on these tours, and if they bring it up, you just like raise your hand and just come forward. And...
If I had the time, I would. Oh god, like there are a few things I hate more than like historical anachronism that are like trans history related, because that's my field. And yeah, I hate him so much. I've read essays in university where people have used him as a source, and it's like, why?
Jeez.
Why would you? And you can get away with that like on a very basic level, where like before you start doing like proper essays where people actually check your sources.
Oh boy. I'm gonna get into so much shit about the fact that like I don't know anything about Canadian history, and it's so well. I thought that I don't know anything about Canadian history, but I'm like so not involved with it, and so I don't. And also like I only like know vaguely what's going on in Canadian politics outside of like Ontario. Like I know that like British Columbia just elected a social democratic government for like. It's
cool.
It's one of those things where it's like it's the first time they've elected a social democratic government for the second time in a row, and it's like this is like a big deal. And I was like, oh okay, sounds good, but like I'm so bad at like my knowledge of what's going on in my own country is awful, because that's life. Was Nixon to the left of Obama on economics? Yeah. Income inequality was way lower under Nixon than it was under Obama. And Nixon was dealing with the issue of stagflation. Like, his thing was getting rid of the gold standard and, like, a bunch of other stuff that was, like, definitely more monetary policy than, or more, like, interventionist monetary policy than Obama would have been happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stagflation would have been solved under Obama by just giving, like, another $1 trillion to bankers, because they'll just pretty please somehow fix it.
Yeah. I don't know enough about presidents, unfortunately.
It's basically like Richard Nixon was basically the last Republican president. Was like the last like pre-neoliberal Republican president.
Really?
Who still thought the government had a role to play in how, in the economy.
Yeah.
He was conservative and definitely believed in austerity and like balancing budgets and stuff like that. And he was never like the
all
whole
hail
like,
the market solves all.
Yeah, that kind of started with Reagan. So
that makes sense.
And took over both political parties by Bill Clinton. So
I know enough about Reagan to be like, whenever someone says the problem started with Reagan, I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds right.
Yep. All right. Remember how I got you to watch a couple videos in the reactor about cruise ships because I know how you dislike the industry. When I was looking for that stuff, I found several vlog posts made by people on cruise ships talking about how interesting their jobs are, and they were all made in the last few months. How likely do you think that stuff's all sponsored PR content?
It's all sponsored bullshit PR content, 100%.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that happens all the time. I talked about it a little bit. I did a bit of research for that for that video I did on the trolling industrial complex, and like, yeah, it's totally a thing, and I'm going to try to make a video about it soonish. Like, I want to make it sooner rather than later because it kind of has stuff to do with Proposition 22, which is being voted on November 3rd, but I don't think I'm going to have that in time. But, like, I hate the fact that I don't know how Proposition 22 is doing, but I have a feeling it's going to pass and it's going to suck.
Yeah, I also have a feeling it's going to pass. There's too much money behind it.
Yeah. Like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's actually it's actually bananas how much money is being spent to pass Proposition 22.
And also, like, there hasn't been like much organized resistance against it, as far as I've seen. So,
but yeah, this election.
Democracy in action.
This election, I'm so happy for this election to just finally be over.
One day. This election will never be over, Tristan. You know that, right? November 3rd will come and go, and then we will have to wait like another 2 weeks before we have the results of like most things. And then January is going to come around, and then suddenly it's a new election because Trump is either going to win, at which point the nightmare never ends, or Biden is going to win, at which case Trump immediately announces his 2024 candidacy and starts campaigning immediately.
Yeah, I had a nightmare once, like an actual nightmare, about Trump pulling a Grover Cleveland, which Grover Cleveland was the president who did one term and then lost an election and then won an election again and did a second term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he'll probably argue.
That's what I'm afraid of.
He'll use the same argument that Vladimir Putin used to be like, all right, no, like, what the Constitution says is that you're limited to 2 consecutive terms.
Exactly. So I'm fine.
Yeah. Was the sinking of the MS Estonia a big deal in Scandinavia?
Huge.
What is this?
Huge deal. So the MS Estonia, it was a ferry that I think passed between Finland, Estonia, and Sweden, because we have a bunch of ferries in our sea, in the Baltic. And it sometime in the 90s, I don't know the specifics, I'm sorry, it sank, and it sank like super quick. Like normally ferries and like big ships, they can take a few hours to sink, but this one sunk in like almost no time flat, and like a lot of people died. And it also sank in a like pretty spectacular way. It is currently being investigated again because of some conspiracy theorists have claimed that like maybe they crashed with a submarine, and then people got scared. It didn't. Preliminary results have also shown that it sunk the way people thought it sunk. Because basically, you know how some ferries like open in the front, like they just open like a big mouth and cars drive into it and then it closes. Basically, that whole mouth just fell off, and water just poured into the vehicle deck.
Fair. Okay, yeah, that would sink a ship real fast.
Yeah, and that kind of made it do this, and the more it does this, like cars become unhooked, cargo becomes unhooked, and stuff starts doing this. And it sank super quick, and a lot of people died. it became a huge deal, and the Swedish government was like accused of covering it up because there were some shady things. Although the conspiracy theorists probably have uncovered some truth in the sense that like the Swedish military probably did some sort of smuggling operations with former Soviet weaponry through Estonia. But the conspiracy theory about them like crashing into a submarine was like no one really believes that except for like Russian bots, because whenever I go to like videos about MS Estonia on YouTube, the comments are like filled with people being like, it's a submarine, it's a Swedish submarine, it's a Swedish submarine, it's a Swedish submarine, and like a bunch from like very fresh accounts. So it may not be Russian bots, but some kind of bots are very interested in pushing the narrative that a Swedish submarine crashed into the ferry.
Oh,
and there's no evidence for it at all.
That sounds great and legitimate. That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thoughts on the recent regional elections in Canada? I don't know of any except for the one in BC. The one in BC is pretty good news. I also know that there's a by-election happening in my old riding of Toronto Centre, which I actually know the NDP person running, and I'm hoping that he can pull it out, but we'll see where that goes. But I don't know anything about any of the other regional elections because, as we mentioned earlier, I am very bad when it comes... The thing about Canada is that things that happen in provinces that aren't yours, like provinces' politics, are all so different from each other. Even if they have the same political parties, those political parties are separate from the federal version of the party, and they typically can sometimes have their own politics. Like, for example, the Liberal Party is a right-wing party in British Columbia and in Quebec. And it's like a center-right party or center-right but woke party in federal government. So like, and also those provinces do not have a conservative party. Like, so like all of them are so different, and because Canada is like extremely decentralized, more so than even the United States, like what happens in BC affects Canada very little, or affects Ontario very little. So I pay attention to what's going on in Ontario because that's my province. But like, I don't think people appreciate in Canada just how like extremely decentralized the country is.
Yeah.
To the point where like we don't even have a national healthcare service. We have like every province has its own healthcare service.
That seems effective.
Yeah, my health card. I'm not going to show it because it's probably got doxing information on it.
Yeah,
but
don't do
like,
that.
It's not a like a Canadian health card. It is a Ontario health card. It's Canada's bad. It's a bad country. It's also fake. It's also a fake country that.
It's not real.
No, it is like, you know how like countries when they stopped being straight up colonies tried to do like nation building or anything to try and create some sort of identity. Canada has been like uniquely bad at pretending that it's a real country, and not just like a government front for a bunch of like resource extraction corporations.
Yeah, staying true to the colonial legacy.
Yeah, Canada is like the most colonial independent state. All right, not sure if you knew, but Alberta healthcare workers are walking off the job this morning. Good. Fucking show.
Nice.
Show Jason Kenney what's up. Thoughts on advertisers putting Black Lives Matter on stuff?
Thoughts on what?
So now a bunch of companies are doing stuff like selling BLM t-shirts and like BLM products, merchandise.
As a white person, my stance on it is basically the same as like with LGBT stuff. Like, if it's productive and if it actually helps further the cause of Black Lives Matter and actually helps like uplift like black businesses or whatever, I'm fine with it. But it's also like, it's not up to me. But I also feel like if companies are just like gonna start. If companies are just doing it purely for profit and it's not actually doing any sort of material good for anyone, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
I say that as a white person, so don't take my word for it. I live in Sweden and I'm extremely white.
You are a white person in white land.
I am a white person among white people. Even like, according to eugenicists, I am the most white person. So don't take my word for it.
Yeah, like if it's like a thing to raise money for charity, for like, you know, Black Lives Matter groups, or if it is a thing, as you said, or if it's a black-run business, like sure. But I have a feeling that that's not entirely what it's doing. And if it's someone who's just throwing Black Lives Matter onto things in order to make a quick buck, that I think is kind of skeezy. But okay. Everybody's already calling my brothers. Okay, this is a question that I didn't have a good answer for, and I have a feeling that you'd have something interesting to say about it. So, this person's brother is having twins.
Yes.
But because they did the scan, they're already calling them girls. And how do you feel about using gendered terminology to describe things that are for people who are too young to even comprehend what gender is? And I thought that was interesting about we still are so far from escaping the idea of like children are assumed cis until they say otherwise. And I'm curious about what you think about the idea of like gendering children.
So, in a perfect world, I think that's something that we could sort of escape. You know, in a perfect world, I feel like we could sort of talk. Not assigning children gender and letting them just vibe for a bit, and then they can pick whatever they want.
Vibe should be a gender.
Vibe should be a gender. Assign vibe at birth, avab.
Avab.
But I also think we don't live in a perfect world, unfortunately. And like if you can raise a kid completely genderless, that's great. I don't think that's possible, though. Like, I honestly don't think it is possible, because parenting involves so much more than what, like, you as a parent are doing to the child. Like, the child is like a sponge of information, and they will suck up everything that anyone is saying about the child and other children.
Yeah.
So the child will like, hey, other parents are treating their kid that looks like me, in some way or another in this way, but that's different from how my parents are treating me despite these things. And like, they don't have this sort of complex thought process, but they know that something's up, and they will internalize all of those things. So I think the more productive thing to do is, like, again, if you can, sure, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I don't think it's a bad thing to raise a kid genderless, or I think it might even be a good thing. But I think the more productive avenue to have is if a kid is like deviating from their assigned gender in any way, shape, or form, or say that they identify themselves in another way, to like not question or to not inhibit that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a far more productive conversation or productive method to do it, because we don't live in a perfect world, and like, kids aren't really raised in a vacuum. If they were, then this would be harmful. But I think that this is probably less harmful than like what we have right now, where we assign kids something at birth and then just expect them to have that forever. Like, I think it's probably better to sort of understand that kids are going to sort of be assigned, maybe not by a parent, but by society. But then we don't expect them, like, we don't take it for granted that that's what they're going to be forever.
Yeah. So unfortunately we live in a society again, and so like the best advice would be to just don't overtly try to have them conform to a gender, and if they are showing signs of non-conforming, don't try to push back on that. Just like let them vibe as much as they can.
Let them vibe. Exactly. Kids have it hard enough. Just let them vibe.
And that's going to be a hard enough task to do, because as I'm sure you know, childhood things are extremely gendered. Like, probably more gendered than like adult things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because corporations want to, they want to like squeeze every single dollar out of parents. So if parents have kids of 2 different genders, they can't use the same clothes. They have to buy all of it again.
Yeah.
So they can make twice the money from twice the amount of babies. Gender is, to a large extent, this is not an exaggeration at all. Childhood gender is kind of a ploy by toy companies to sell more gender toys. This is not a joke. This happened during like the 50s and 40s.
Because if you look at like toys from like the 50s and 40s, the toys are kind of like innocuous. Like Lego was not gendered until in the 90s when they were like, Nintendo just for boys.
Yeah.
Lego man blocks because you built
exactly.
you built them with your penis or something. I don't know. But like, and so yeah, like it, while you can't just let your child vibe until they decide what gender they want to be, you can at least let them vibe as much as possible.
Yeah. And I think that's the best thing a parent can do. Like, a parent can't isolate a kid from society, but we can provide an oasis from society.
And as soon as they start showing interest in not being cis, then be on board and help out as much as possible with because especially when it comes to trans children, I think like when it comes to gender confirmation things like hormone replacement therapy and stuff like that, like in a lot of places, like the earlier you can get to that, the easier that transition can be, if I remember correctly. Like things like because you can do stuff like puberty blocking and like all sorts of there's a whole world of science out there that the TERFs are really mad about, and the earlier you can get to that, the less like stress and pain will happen. So if they start asking questions, like get like yes, enable right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's. I think yeah, good. That was a good answer.
Thank you.
All right. YouTube chat troll. Oh. This guy. I can't tell if that's a troll or just making a goof.
Can't tell. That's true. Good point.
Okay.
You are far kinder with the bad hammer than I am.
Yeah. I mean, I don't live in a context where people are constantly trying to dehumanize me, so I can put up with a lot. I am like on the Venn diagram of privilege. I'm like in the dead fucking center. Okay. A lot of people on more professionally political internet media, Jacobin, The Rising, The Intercept, seem to think that a lot of leftists take corporate wokeness seriously. Is that true, or are they just not getting younger activists?
No, I think people do take a lot of leftists do take corporate wokeness seriously. That's why it works. That's why corporations are doing it. Yeah,
and I do think that there is a negative side effect of it that I mean, it's good in some ways and bad in some other ways that we can get into in a sec.
Yeah. And like I just feel like I don't know. I forgot. I lost my train of thought.
A lot of corporate wokeness that like makes me go nuts is the fact that and this happened, and I've like had like legitimate fights with some of my friends who have like, generally are pretty kind and generous and like, well-adjusted people politically, but like there's this idea that if you can perform an amount of like belief in social equality, then you are allowed to they're making a path for you to feel like you're a progressive and that you're making the world a better place, while not criticizing the actual mechanisms and structures and stuff that creates all of these inequalities.
Yeah.
And
it sort of desensitizes you to the actual stuff.
Yeah, that's why I was in a situation where in 2016 I had a lot of friends of mine I had a handful of friends of mine who straight up said to my face that I was a misogynist, and like in the years afterwards have come to me and been like, I am so sorry I said that to you. I've like noticed things, like, what's it called? I read, I like, you know, came around, I realized all the stuff, and it's like, cause like I was a straight up, like, I was a demonized Bernie bro, and I stuck to my guns all the way up to election day, and that some people got really fucking pissed at me. I made a video shortly before the election that that suggested that Hillary Clinton was sort of the movement of neoconservatism from the Republican to the Democratic Party, and yeah, I got like I had one, like, we had an election night party, and one of my friends at the time, she said it was people like me that caused this to happen, and she like stormed out, and I was like, oh shit. But then I've had people who said that kind of stuff, and then like a year later were like, yeah, I was like a liberal back then, and now I'm not, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, good to hear that. Well, you know, if you don't vote for the one woman, then you hate all women. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
It's a difficult thing, and like this is like definitely a tactic that that a political contingency is using to try and separate the left. Is, you know, if you hate Mayor Pete, must be a homophobe. If you hate this, if you don't like this person, like it's it's part of it. And like I don't want to sound like I'm like a, you know, class reductionist or anything like that, but like, because, you know me, I'm like, I believe that there is value in identity politics. I do think that that these like social inequalities are real, and they while they are made worse by class and made worse by capitalism, they're not created by capitalism. Sexism, for example, is way fucking older than capitalism.
Oh yeah.
It's just the capitalism, because you can then, you know, charge people more money for the pink deodorant. They use it to make more money and to hyper exploit people. And so capitalism makes it worse, but doesn't make it go away. But like, to show, like, for example, like the whole thing that I used to say about Hillary Clinton was like, well, like, yeah, I am a strong feminist, and I'm a radical feminist who would vote for who supported Bernie Sanders because, like, I believe that a woman president is less of a priority than like brown women in the Middle East not getting their fucking like lives destroyed by remote controlled like missiles. Like,
there's a wonderful comic about, it's not wonderful, it's horrifying. But it is like poignant in the sense that like it shows like a bunch of it shows a couple of people like being bombed by drones, but basically telling each other like, well, I hear the next one's gonna be from a woman, so, you know, progress.
Plus there was kind of like in 2016 there was sort of this feeling that like Hillary Clinton was the first woman to ever be elected president of a country, and I was just like, oh geez, like,
yeah, I remember
you were beaten to the punch by like Pakistan, bud. Like, what's it called? The first woman elected president or prime minister, I should say, was in Iceland in the 70s, like, or even earlier. I remember the first woman who led a country was in Iceland. I just can't remember the time when that happened.
That makes sense. I don't remember either.
But like,
although historically it's probably sometime around the Viking Age.
Yeah,
but we just don't know about it. That's
true. Yeah, you got like, yeah, if you get out of like Queen Dido and stuff. But like, but still like it was very like American centric, and also it was another example of something that I've seen a lot in the United States. And there's like some deep programming in this, because it goes like, there's some people who I've thought are very, very woke who actually can't see past like the devaluing of lives in like the Middle East and stuff. And I was like that the value of human life drops down significantly once it leaves American borders. And I was always like, oh, like the people who say that Donald Trump is the worst president in American history, and it's like, bruh.
Yeah, Andrew Jackson like was around, you know.
I would even say George W. Bush. Like, I would say
Oh, yeah, for sure.
George W. Bush is probably the worst president in American history because, like, there's a million dead people on his hands.
Tristan. Haven't you seen on Twitter how many people are just missing him now because Trump is so abrasive?
Ugh.
We can be friends with George Bush. We have to bring the Republican Party back to its civil George W. Bush years.
Oh, boy.
Ah!
Yeah, that's the correct reaction. But, like, and so, like, I feel like there is something intentional about the muddying the waters on this discussion.
Oh, 100%.
Thoughts on the recent election in New Zealand? Oh, that was a good election.
Good election. Also in Bolivia.
Yeah, we've had some pretty good elections in the last week.
Didn't Chile also, like, elect to get rid of their constitution from Pinochet?
I know that the election is today, I think.
Ah, so
they're having a plebiscite, which is sort of like the Spanish version of a referendum to get rid of the Pinochet era constitution.
No, they celebrated. They've done it. They celebrated.
Well done, Chile. Okay, so
good job, Chile.
There's been some 2020 has had some redeeming arcs in Act 3.
Redemption final quarter.
Yeah, we'll find out what happens in a couple weeks. Or I guess
that
a week from tomorrow.
Actually makes people immortal or something.
Yeah, all the people who died from it just come back. Okay, let's see. I actually really have to go to the washroom, but there's only 10 minutes left, so we'll power through. Is the melting ice caps more depressing than the Cold War?
Yes.
Yeah. The cold, like, both of them are going to destroy all life, or were threatening all life on Earth. But one is a much harder, much harder solution. One involves completely revamping the way that we produce energy, and the other one was about having two countries stop trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
Both tough, but yeah.
One of them we managed to do. The other one.
Although it needs me to argue that the true idle rich are technically lumpen proletariat.
I mean, technically.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Lumpen proletariat, if I remember, are people who are proletariats but argue in favor of the bourgeoisie. Is that it?
Yeah, like their class interests don't align with the rest of the proletariat. For some reason or another.
Suppose someone like AOC becomes president. How should they go about pulling the U.S. military out of the rest of the world? The other day, Ben Burgess hosted a debate about whether it would be immediate or like a slow withdrawal, so things like South Korea and Taiwan don't immediately go to shit.
I think a lot of things were like withdrawing U.S. troops from the world is kind of misunderstood because, like, sure, there are things in like Taiwan and South Korea that are like hard to argue for. But like the US has like military bases all over the world, like not just in like hotspot areas, but like all over the place, in various sizes. And like a lot of them could just be closed. And the only reason they exist is because it makes it easier to sort of coordinate a global defense network, because that's how America does it. America literally has like different departments in the Pentagon that like deals with the U.S. military in Africa and South America and the Arctic.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I should point out that there is no American troops in Taiwan, because that would be a really, really bad diplomatic situation. But
they are close by, just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case.
I do think that, there's a lot of like small military bases that could be phased out pretty fast. There are some that are going to be more difficult situations, because I do understand, like, for example, the United States military is functionally Japan's military right now.
Yes.
The military base in Japan is like the size of a major city. And
they brought that on themselves, though.
Yeah, and also there is a similarly large military base in South Korea that is huge. And also, again, the United States is functionally the military of South Korea. But and so those will be a longer process. And also there is, like, I think the biggest American military base that's not on American soil is in Germany. And that, I'm sure you know, that one is going to take a long time to take apart.
Yeah, it's basically the staging ground for the entire eastern hemisphere.
Yeah.
For the American military on the East Coast.
So yeah, it's going to be a process of shutting down. But I do think that there's a lot of like military bases that are like less than 10 years old that are like just all over the Middle East, like all over Iraq and Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. That like you could take those down. That just reminded me though of something that we watched on The Reactor that I think that you would find very funny, which was they were making it was an Onion video about the new Call of Duty being like hyper realistic, and so it was a game where you stood like because you were sort of in the military for a while, so it was like the hyper realistic military simulation where you're like standing in the desert and debating over whether or not you would have sex with Lady Gaga for like 2 hours. and there was one where it's like they're adding a new expansion pack where you're going to work at a military base in Germany where you're repairing Humvees, and I was like, there's there Europeans would kill for that video game where you just fix Humvees.
We would love that shit.
But I just like all of a sudden, like, man, it's like Call of Duty is just explicitly trying to cater to the European audience by making boring military simulators where you stand around and do nothing.
But the thing is, like, I would want that though. I want this. I want military base manager. You don't fight. You're like the quartermaster.
But like, it just reminded me, I'm like, oh, because like you were in the military, and you know that like military life is extremely fucking boring.
Yes, it is. It is. My sergeant would often joke and say that military life, even when you're deployed, because he was deployed, is 99 hours of boring shit and 1 hour of being terrified.
Yep.
For every 1 hour of being terrified, you spend 100 being bored to shit.
The term "hurry up and wait" doesn't exist for nothing. Especially if you're in like the Swedish military, because the Swedish military is just like, we're just saving up in case the Russians invade.
It's just in case the Russians, yeah.
All right. Also,
you're just waiting for the Russians to come.
Should Marxism-Leninism be changed to Mulderism-Johnsonism?
Yes.
Oh yes, we've had this discussion.
But it probably doesn't mean the same thing. It's not just a rebrand.
Oh no. Ours involves giving the Kronstadt, what's it called, the people who are protesting, or the people who are striking, a Gundam.
A Gundam, yes. Now that would be funny.
Mm-hmm. What class do rich athletes belong to? They're rich, but they're still getting paid by someone else. Fairly often,
Yeah.
I'd probably say that like wealthy athletes fairly often successfully strike more often than a lot of people. Like, remember the whole thing that happened with basketball recently?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're pros. They're rich, but they're definitely pros.
Yeah, and like most professional athletes aren't that rich. Like when it comes down to it, like the stars are pretty rich, but like most people are like pretty middle class, if you allow me to use such a cursed term. Mm-hmm. Because Twitter hates that term now for some reason. Or
more accurately, they get paid a lot, but they're basically making their entire life's income in like the 6 years that their body is strong enough to do the thing.
Exactly. So the smart ones, they save it.
Then they tend to become bourgeoisie later, because then they have like $13 million, and they're like, all right, now invest it in corporations so that you can make $100,000 a year for the rest of your life and never have to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just reminding again about the Call of Duty thing, and I'm just thinking like, just like how the game where you manage a soccer team is more popular than the one where you play soccer.
Yes. Listen, it's fun. I actually play Football Manager quite a lot. It's really funny. It's fun.
Oh, man. Europeans have a different definition of fun than the rest of the world.
Yes, I go to work and I come home and I pretend to do more work.
Yes, I
don't see why we all have depression.
Hello, my name is Johan. I come home from my job at the Volkswagen factory in order to make to car building simulator. Hi, I'm gonna the most popular game.
I'm literally going to play a space program simulator after this stream is over. That's literally what I'm planning to do.
Oh dear, I'm gonna finish a book. I'm very close to finishing The Years of Rice and Salt, and I'm gonna finish that book today.
Damn it! I was supposed to start reading that one.
Very. I just love the like Euro Truck Simulator is. It exists.
It's good. I don't know what to tell you. It's good.
How is that conflict going in Armenia? Dutch news sites stopped updating because they are awful. As far as I know, they keep trying to make a truce or some sort of ceasefire, but it always keeps getting broke by Azerbaijan breaking it. Azerbaijan is being very...
Azerbaijan.
Yeah, well, okay, because like basically the story behind it is that Azerbaijan and Armenia have been disputing over this area since like cavemen
the
times.
Roman Empire?
Yeah, they've been fighting over this area of land, and it's like made even worse by the fact that like they've grown into different ethnicities. One is Turkic, and one is whatever Armenians are. And then like one is adopted Christianity, and one's adopted Islam. And it's like a whole thing. But then now that Turkey is basically being more belligerent abroad, Turkey is basically helping Azerbaijan try to flex power and break the ceasefire. And it's like, fucking Azerbaijan. They also...
Yeah, wars are bad.
Yes.
Yo.
Yeah, and I was like, man, hasn't Armenia, like, done enough? From what I know is that they're...
Haven't they suffered enough?
Yeah, like, the worst of it has, like, I don't know if the worst of it has already happened, but, like, it has quieted down a bit, and then it keeps, like, flaring back up every time it seems like they're close to doing some sort of stop.
Yeah.
Wikipedia says her parents, who are from Iraq, and she was born in Toronto. I think that's it. I mean, maybe. I met her, like, 2 years ago, so, or when I met her there, it was, like... It was 2018, so it might have been a while, and I forgot. Sorry. Someone asked if you got a haircut.
I got a haircut a while ago, yeah.
There you go.
I have now shorter hair.
How far do you think modern-day Islamophobia will go? Depends upon how bad it gets. It seems like it's being generally sidelined for more general white supremacy. Like, they're just taking the mask off now, but... It could, like, what's it called? The sort of 9/11 anti-Muslim hysteria still exists. It's still a thing. All right. It is 2:00. Please, we're going to go raid somebody, but please say where Mia content comes from.
You can go to Mia content at youtube.com/c/miamulder, and that's my thing. You can also go to miamulder.com. It will take you there too. I have a website. I don't have a website, but it's a link that goes to my YouTube channel. You can also go to watchnebula.com/miamulder. If you have a Nebula account, you can also watch me stream games every Tuesday and Thursday on twitch.tv/miamulder, and I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/potatopolitics.
Yeah. All right. We're going to, in 10 seconds, we're going to raid Izzy Bear 713. Wonderful Twitch streamer who got me into Twitch streaming. So please, everybody, have a wonderful time. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you later.
See you later.